In this video, we'll address the question when you should use your candies and your Dream Shards into your Pokemon, and just talk a little bit about the leveling system in general, because it is quite weird in Pokemon Sleep where you have these plateaus. Now, I don't have any graphs on this, but we'll just use the summary as a guide here, and I think that will be quite helpful in this video. So, Spooky Bento had some feedback to me on the slacking video, and I was thinking to piece together this video as a response to help you out. So the main question there was, I keep talking about the final evolutions in all of my videos, but why don't I ever mention the first stage? So I think overall, as you progress in the game, the main objective on hunting for Pokemon and finding a really good Pokemon of a given species, so for example a good Slackoth, the main purpose then is to look at its long-term potential. So you don't really need to know all that much about how well Slackoth does if you know that the Slackoth is going to turn into a really good Slacking, for example. So the other thing there to consider is the friend list in the game is a big mechanic. It may just look like some menu to the side of the game, but the friend list is a big deal. The reason is, if you fill it up with 50 friends that are active, then, well, at level 5 you sometimes get 2 candies every day, but for the most part you're gonna get at least 50 candies, just random stuff, but it's every day, and 50 candies is a lot of resources. So if you're playing for like 1, 2, 3, 4 months, half a year, a whole year, you're then gonna end up in a situation like I am with the Pichu hunt, where I haven't really gone for a Raichu yet, but I have 800 candies to spend. And when starting out, and just in general, it is probably a better idea to zoom in on a couple species, like a lot of these beginning videos have showcased. So for example, you want to go for the Igglybuff, the Totodile, the Doduo, the Cyndaquil, Spheal, Meganium, and just build on the berry Pokemon and then branch out over time, so that when you have hunted a whole lot of Pokemon, like you get to friendship level 10 and you get to level friendship 20 on some of these, then you can pick the best out of 20 and then fuel that one up. And at that point, when you've waited a little bit, then you'll have enough resources to where boosting it into its final evolution, or like way up past level 30, stuff like that. It may sound a little bit crazy if you're a beginner player, but this is definitely going to happen sooner or later, because the main resource that you will be lacking is not candies for the most part, it is Dream Shards and good Pokemon to invest in. So obviously candies will become quite scarce as you try to level up, and I'm still having issues reaching level 50 on some of these, like the Ampharos and the Walrein and the Gengar. Well, the Ditto has kind of the plateau at level 60. So that is a good segment. Let's get into the portioning of candies and of the Dream Shards, because one thing that is quite interesting with the overall game is how the level itself is not necessarily like a curved, like smooth progression of the Pokemon. It's not like, or it's more like a lockstep kind of deal where you reach another plateau, like another like leg up, more so than this like incremental boost. I can use the Pikachu here as an example that you can see is level 12. That is quite low. So if I sort by berry finding, you can see that it turns up as the 5th best Pokemon for finding berries this week. Naturally, it is because I don't really have all that many good berry specialists, but if we have a look at it, it's quite interesting. It is double Grappa as an electric berry type or berry specialist, and then it's got the helping speed, and the speed is 36 minutes. That is incredibly fast. It's just level 10. So the overall effect on the leveling will be the berry value, and then you get an incremental boost to the speed every time you level up. These are things you're probably familiar with, but the interesting levels then to consider is the level 10, obviously, because that's when you get the first sub skill. Then it's level 25 for most Pokemon, and then quite a bit of Pokemon at level 50. And then for most of your long-term ingredient specialists, it's going to be level 60. After that, I have no idea what the game looks like, but the interesting question then becomes, should you just wait to boost your Pokemon until you know for sure that you can reach that next milestone? So for example, this Pikachu is level 12. When I just click here, I can see that I can guarantee the upgrade into level 25. So maybe I should just wait, because the difference between this one and a level 24 Pikachu is not too big a deal. Obviously, you do get a bit of extra speed, you do get a little bit of extra berry value, but overall, there's typically something that you can stretch for instead. So overall, your team will grow and get a little bit more productive. So the big difference then becomes the specialty of the Pokemon, and this is where it really gets interesting. The berry specialists, for the most part, if you really zoom in on getting a few but really good berry specialists, those you can more or less just dump resources into at any time, which is quite contrary to the overall concept here. But the reason is that berry value, and the berries and the speed, and that's all you're doing. But when it comes to the ingredient specialist, I think the overall picture is completely different. For the most part, I think a lot of the ingredient specialists plateau at level 30. So for example, the Blastoise here, it's double milk. At level 30, it does unlock that second ingredient spot. And as an ingredient specialist Pokemon, there isn't really much happening past level 30. You have the first sub-skill unlocked, you have the second sub-skill unlock, and then the next milestone is really happening at level 50. And so as an ingredient specialist, you're mostly looking for the ingredients and then just going back to your berry Pokemon when you've farmed enough of the ingredients. And so even the berry value is not that big a deal, because overall you can rather spend those resources on different Pokemon, where this kind of does its job. So it's kind of plateaued at level 30, and then whenever in the future I'm really interested for it, I can just go all in on Blastoise and boost it all the way, maybe up to level 40 as a plateau, and 50, or just straight to 50 to unlock that third sub-skill. So the other thing then is the daily experience. That doesn't influence it as much, as long as you're just using good Pokemon overall. That experience ends up somewhere useful. And so we've then talked a little bit about the berry specialists, and then we've talked a little bit about the ingredient specialists, where the berries, you kind of just want as high level as possible because the berry value is correlated with the level. The ingredient specialist has that big unlock at level 30. And then what I'm thinking is, probably for most skill specialists that are not the berry finding, then if it's also not your healer, so a lot of exceptions in the exceptions, let me use the Dene here as an example. I don't think this Dene gets all that much better past level 25 comparatively. Like if I look at the use that I get from my Dream Shards and consuming the berries on different Pokemon, I think overall the skill specialist has a plateau at level 25. Potentially also 30 for that second ingredient unlock, but overall it's not a big difference getting apples and sometimes cacao, you know? But the double skill unlock here is obviously very useful, because you can get the helping speed M, the skill trigger M, and the nature is there at all times. But you see what I'm saying here with the concepts, where the berry specialist, obviously high level is great, but I'm starting to wonder more and more if I should only put resources into a few couple ingredient Pokemon that I really want to get to level 60 for that tremendous productivity. And then aside from that, for the most part, the healer will be the exception because that's always on the field, and so that berry value will really stack up over time. But to really go for those berry Pokemon. So I hope this video was interesting and can stimulate some discussion in the comments. Obviously, the way you go about your strategy in this game can be quite different from person to person, collection to collection, and strategy by strategy. So I'm super curious to hear your thoughts on it, and then we can have a good discussion. So thank you so much for watching. I'll see you around in another video.